I'm focused on this theory cause it keeps me from his fire. The Holy Ghost was with me, so my fear I leave behind. My sins were all diminished when he took that breath and died. And if you think I'ma give up on my God, the devil is a lie. The devil is a lie. The devil is a lie.
Hello, this is Christina Barr. You're watching Black Tea News. Hello. Welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we're going to be talking about Brianna Wu, who's a trans influencer who criticized Dylan Mulvaney, which about being basically a caricature and a minstrel show type caricature of what a woman is. And it's interesting because all of these trans women are pretending to be women and are essentially kind of wearing women face and stuff. So, it's there's certainly a let them fight kind of element to this, but it's just very interesting, especially because I saw a post from Brianna Wu that was retweeted by a friend of mine who criticized him the other day. So I want to bring that up in this conversation as well. Gavin Newsom was also talking on his podcast. Well, he had mentioned something to Charlie Kirk about Latinx being really stupid. Like, you remember that period when they were trying to make Latinx happen, like fetch, that's from Mean Girls, like, stop trying to make fetch happen. They were trying to make Latinx happen. And Gavin Newsom was like, oh yeah, that was stupid. People, try to pretend like it wasn't really happening or he wasn't doing it. But the reality of the situation is that Gavin Newsom himself was a perpetrator of Latinx. So he got exposed on CNN. Of all places, though, CNN isn't exposing everyone, man. They allow the teachers union president to get away with lying about different stuff. So we're not going to give CNN too much credit, but they did blow up the spot of Gavin Newsom, who no doubt wants to be the president of the United States one day. So anyway, we'll be talking about those things today. Before we get into it, I want to encourage you guys to go to blackteens.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation on the website because it does cost to stream, run the site, all the good stuff so you guys can support. Very much do appreciate you guys. You guys can also check out different merch that's available, different mugs and t-shirts and all that stuff. So you guys want to, support in that kind of way, you guys definitely can. Then there's different mugs that you guys can check out. And of course, I have my books. It is Friday. We are already at the end of the week. And if you guys need some good material to read, I got plenty. You guys can check out in the description. There's a link to an Amazon page. I'll have my books on it. But other than that, my book website is ninjadustpublishing.com. But you guys can also find that information on just blacktnews.com. On the merchandise page, there's a banner that'll take you to my book website. So if you need some good reading, it's there. Thank you to those of you in the comments. CRC Kit Kat on YouTube, and I know other people watch back live or will pop in, and I know some of you just stare and you don't say anything. That's okay. I like you. Thank you for staring, watching. But I thank you to those of you who watch Facebook, YouTube. I know you guys can't see each other on the different platforms, but I can see you. I can't always get to like all of your comments because I don't have a producer or whatever. I'm doing everything. So I'm trying to keep kind of track of things going on. And then sometimes you guys are having like conversations that have nothing to do with what I'm talking about, but you guys have become so accustomed to getting in the chat and seeing each other every day that you guys are having just general life conversations. So I'm not going to reply to every comment, but I do read super chats. I haven't mentioned that in a while. But if you guys have a super chat or something, or something like that, I will read it on YouTube. On Facebook, though, there's no super chat thing. But if you want to give via stars, you guys can do that. So before we get, I guess this is going to lead into it. So the other day I was on TikTok and I had made a video. TikTok immediately put it under review, and I was like, they're going to take this down. Let me just take it down. So I took it off of TikTok and I posted it on YouTube and I posted it on Facebook. So it was a video replying to a girl saying that, oh, if you are afraid of a trans person coming into the bathroom, then you're not actually afraid of trans women. You're afraid of men, and you're taking it out on this very small percentage of the population. And I said, trans women are men. So if you're saying we're afraid of men, we are all, trans women qualify. They're also men. And I said, and I'm not afraid of men. When there was a whole man versus bear thing, like, would you rather run into a bear in the woods or would you rather run into a man in the woods? I'm the one who defended men all day long. Like, not that there's not very dangerous men who would do heinous, horrible things. But if there was a randomizer and it was going to pop out a kind of bear or kind of man, I think there's mostly good men in this world who would want to be protectors and providers, who might help you get out of the forest, because I have a bad sense of direction and I don't tend to be in the forest, so I might need that help getting out. So and then there's a lot of people who just want to be left alone and aren't a danger to you. So I would, just kind of generally take my chances that, it's the randomizer is going to pop on a decent guy. I don't even like running into dogs. Like so I would take the man. I understand a lot of arguments for the women who say the bear, and but I don't agree with it. And I've seen a lot of videos during that debate. I've made some, I replied to many, made comments or whatever, but I'm team man. But there are certain men that you should absolutely be concerned with, that you should make sure. There's certain men out there, I guess people in general, but particularly men, because they are bigger, they're stronger, they're faster in general. Those sorts of men are why you should be careful where you go. Be careful and be armed. Make sure you got people programmed in your phone, that people have your location. Certain people that if you saw them, that you should call for help, or want a man with you who's going to protect you and fight in certain situations. There are certain men that you should definitely concern with. I don't like to say be afraid, because the Lord hasn't given us a spirit of fear, but there's some people who definitely red flags, alarm bells, fight for your life. There's certainly men out there. And the number isn't necessarily small, because there's a lot of people on this planet. So even a small percentage is still a lot of people. So I'm not afraid of men in general. But there are certain men that we'll just say, for the sake of argument, inspire fear. Okay. But there's certain attributes that men have that should make those alarm bells go off. So also in the video, the girl saying, like, if there's a bad man who wants to come into the bathroom, it's just a sign. They can still come into the bathroom and harm you. And that's true. And the type of man who would ignore the sign and is going somewhere where he doesn't belong, that should set off alarm bells anyway, when they're going into places where they don't belong. And if you saw a dude just walk into the bathroom, like chasing or going after a woman, like, maybe that should raise suspicion. Like, if you see that, like, that's like, what's going on? Like, if there's other people watching that go down. So there's, other reasons why the sign might be helpful. But let's say a bad person, like, is just like, screw that sign, I'm going in there to hurt, to a woman's space where I'm not supposed to be. I think those sorts of people should inspire alarm bells. And trans women would qualify, and a man sees a space as designated for women, and they violate that private space, and they don't care about women, their safety, how they feel, or if they feel comfortable, they're going to violate their space. Those are the kind of men who have red flags, who should inspire caution. They should. They should. So you can't just say cis men are bad, which I don't. I have an article about how cis is a slur. It's a silly nonsense term. I don't identify as a woman. I am a woman, so I accept the premise. But they're men. They're all kinds of men, but they're all in the same classification of being men. So I did a reply video to that girl, and I posted it on Facebook and on Instagram and on YouTube. And on Instagram, someone wasn't too happy with it. And they're like, "Oh, this is ignorant, and trans women are women." I'm like, "How? How are they women?" And like, "Well, being a woman, they're just meeting the standards of their innermost thoughts of being what a female is." And I'm like, "Okay, female is a biological thing. Like, we're talking about sex at that point. So how is it that your innermost thoughts or whatever of being female, when you clearly can't achieve that? Like, you have to separate sex and the gender to kind of entertain this gender identity issue." So I was like, "What you're saying it doesn't really make sense." And they just kept insisting like that female isn't about biology. So they're going on a little tangent, and I decided to look at their profile and the sorts of things that are on their Instagram. And there were some pervy things on their Instagram. I did screenshot it, but I don't really want to burden you I guess with that knowledge that I obtained. And it was like fan art of dudes and like thongs and corsets, and like one on top of it, like sitting on the shoulders with his legs down and stuff, like like you would have a little kid on your shoulders and stuff. That's how they had men while dressed in like skimpy outfits and other things like that. And I'm like, this person has autogynephilia. This person clearly has that. And so I said, men are not, trans women are not women. They are men. They can do things to their bodies to try to alter their bodies, and they can mutilate it in all kinds of different ways, but they'll always be men. And I said, some men have autogynephilia. And I said, a lot of those men who have autogynephilia, they'll have things on their profiles and stuff that look similar to your art, your perverted art. And then they're like, my stuff isn't perverted, it's just expressive. And they're like, and you're so ignorant, blah, 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 blah. And I'm just a curvy girl. I don't know about that. Cause I mean, I'm a curvy girl. And if someone were to draw me, I wouldn't look like the images of, they were clearly men with some like feminine sort of things that they were trying to convey, but they were still dudes like dressed as women that I guess he found to be sexual or attractive or whatever. So, I'm like, this is a weirdo. But it was odd. Odd, but not surprising how that went down. So I brought it up, one, because I guess I share things with you guys, because there is a lot of this, or I guess it's mostly this issue, is these men determining what they think female is or feminine is or woman is, and them trying to be that. But they fail because so much of it is still looking through the male gaze because they are men. So, with that being said, I saw this post earlier, I think this week, that my friend retweeted. This is Sav. Sav has a big following on TikTok. She mostly does movie reviews on TikTok. She'll still talk about other things. She's a lot spicier on X. She's a lot spicier on X, but she would probably be targeted and have her stuff taken down if she like said some of the same stuff on TikTok, because they're not as strict as they used to be on the trans issue. It kind of maybe they are getting back to that. I'm not sure, because again, I tried to post my video and it went under review immediately. And I was like, I don't have the time for my account to be taken down. So I just took down the video. And I told you guys about 2 weeks ago how my sister got a warning on her account because she had posts that were like, only women can get pregnant. And she got flagged. She tried to appeal it and they rejected her appeal. So I think they might be going back into the phase of, we're not saying negative things about trans people. I don't know. But the things they went after my sister about were like wild. But Brianna here, I've never seen Brianna's content other than like X posts. He's on like YouTube and stuff, but from my understanding, in my experience, most pretty women are not threatened by trans girls. We're actually fairly natural allies, because those kinds of high femme women understand the skill and thought behind presenting yourself that way. And we're not threatening. There's no power struggle or mean girl dynamics. That is so balls, man. Trans girls, especially ones into men, are delighted to have a seat at the table. Okay. You're gay. One of the tragedies I have noticed is that a lot of pretty women get traumatized in childhood to not trust other women. Trans gals are traumatized into not trusting men. I think finding someone with no pretext tends to lead to fairly stable friendships. So he might be friends with pretty women or girls that he deems to be pretty. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder, right? But Sav replied, and I thought this is such a great reply. You think like a man. Like a lot of men, you don't listen to women, nor do you understand women. You swear up and down that you have a female brain. But this post is the male gaze. You think pretty girls like you because they understand you. You don't understand female friendship dynamics. There's a duff in every pretty girl group, and darling, you're it. Whew. Hi, femme. You sound like a porn-obsessed incel who is convinced he's one of the good guys. Spicy. So, I'm just trying to see if there was any other reply to what she said here. But it is pretty interesting. It sets up the dynamic here of Mr. Wu's comment of, if you don't agree, of course the pretty people agree with me. You don't agree with me, you're ugly. Like the pretty ones are my allies. The pretty ones that there are a lot of there are definitely a lot of not pretty good. I don't really like to talk about people too much on the internet with their looks, but there are definitely some, I don't know, if you could think of stereotypical liberals, there's probably like an image of like lefties that pops into your mind. And I guess we'll go with that, who are those sort of allies. But there are like you know, we'll say kind of some glam folks who are, pro trans and stuff, but that has a lot to do with maybe politics and the need to uh, feel like you're in the clique, you know? Um, in books like Irreversible Damage, it talks about women and how we feel each other's, pain. Like we're very empathetic. And a lot of these transgender, um, these people who go down that route with the social contagion are people who are in different friends groups, and someone gets in there and they start thinking those things, and other folks start tending to lean that way, and women would do other things like that with different sort of abuses with anorexia or cutting themselves and other things like that in the past. And this is just kind of a different unfortunate wave of young women who, are, I don't know, seeking something empty in some kind of way and are fulfilling it in a different need, and hurting themselves in the process. But they get to say that they get to the high of being a victim while feeling special. But it's very much the pretty people, we agree, we have something in common. It's just a very I guess kind of transparent take. Also, the idea of they, have to high present themselves in such a way. If you there are people who are obviously just pretty, and then there are people who glam themselves up, can do their makeup really well, and they take a lot of time to work their magic. Some of these like makeup videos, like beginning to end, it's amazing what people can do with some blush and some, contour and, eyelashes and all kinds of different stuff. If you do have to cake it on to look attractive, then you're made up and, I guess, not actually pretty. But if you're saying that there's a bonding in trying to achieve some kind of high standard for the male gaze, I guess you can say that there's something like that in common. But you're not actually like the women. You are putting on a facade, and as Sav said, some folks just do have like a Duff in their friends group. It's interesting she mentioned that. If you're unfamiliar with Duff, I didn't know about this term, I guess, until that movie came out. There was a book, I guess it was a book before it was a movie, called The Duff. And there was a girl who realized that she was the Duff in her friends group. She had two best friends her own entire life. They're prettier than her, and she would be the one that people would come up to and, to ask them questions about her prettier friends and stuff. And it's the dumb, ugly, fat friend. And the Duff doesn't need to be like all those things. Like maybe you're not actually fat or something, or maybe you're not actually ugly, but you're the one who's not as hot as the other two. So that is a dynamic that you can definitely have in friends groups for sure. Someone said, I don't use filters on my social media posts because I don't want people to cringe when they see me in real life. Man, some of these filters are like outrageous. There was one filter, because if you go on TikTok, there's filters will just kind of pop up whatever is like trending, like will be the first thing that pops up. And there's one glam filter that came on me, and I looked like um I looked younger, and I looked like it reminded me of when I was like 13, and I've always had a face like my face hasn't changed that much over the years. Like I guess I maybe have a younger face than what people tend to guess that I'm younger than what I am. But when I was younger, people would guess that I was older. I've just had a face that hasn't changed that much. I've always kind of looked mature, but now I don't know, when I was young. But anyway, when I was maybe about 12, 13, maybe I was 14 when we took our pictures. We did a CD back in the day, me and my family. So, well, the my 3 older siblings, we did a gospel. It wasn't really gospel. It was a lot of like contemporary stuff, but it was a mix. We just kind of did whatever we wanted. There wasn't like a lot of cohesion, but we did a CD, and so we went down to Tennessee to have our pictures, taken for the CD, and the makeup artist was like a professional makeup artist and stuff, and they had done like other covers for people doing like music and stuff, and they just we were in the makeup chair for a long time with how much stuff that they caked on, but I definitely did not look like a 14-year-old. I think, after they put all the makeup and stuff on. But anyway, that filter reminded me of like those photos I had back in the day. So it's taking shaving some years off, some weight off, and just put all this makeup stuff on it, and then you take it off and people are like shell shocked by like all of a sudden we know what they say. So some of these filters are crazy. There's an artist, Lindsay Sterling. She plays the violin. I went to go see her concert last year, and she doesn't just play the violin. She like dances while she plays, and her shows are like an incredible production if you ever get the chance to see them. But she won't use filters on social media because she wants to encourage people to love themselves and as they're aging gracefully, and I really respect that. And I think that should be more of a movement of people just accepting that they're aging gracefully instead of people doing like all kinds of things to their faces, like certain people like there was a picture of Madonna from a couple of years ago that went around and people were like, what the heck happened? I'm like, don't, like, just it's okay. We all get older. We're all going to get older. And if we don't all get older, that means your life was cut short, by some kind of unfortunate accident, or maybe you were ill or something like that. Like it's a blessing to be able to grow up and grow old, and hopefully you can do that in your right mind and stuff. Not everybody, gets the benefit of you know, I like living like my grandmother, my mom's mom. She lived to 102 and she's still in her right mind, and she was obviously old, but she could still like get around and all kinds of stuff. Some people, their mind goes, but it's okay to get older. You don't need to do all those stuff, to you or whatever. So I don't do a lot of heavy stuff with my makeup or whatever. I just I'm always kind of surprised when people compliment me sometimes, because I'm like, I literally spent maybe 5 minutes. I don't want to spend more of it. I don't want to spend more. um even gosh, even when we went to the ball, I didn't even like do a lot with my makeup. I entertained putting my one of my sisters had like magnetic lashes, and I'm like, I don't feel like putting those on. I used to put on like eyeliner and stuff all the time, and then one day one of my sisters was like, "You look nice without the eyeliner. It's like doing the natural look." I was like, "Oh, okay." And then I just put on like some foundation, some blush, like some mascara, and then the lipstick. The lipstick is kind of like what I'm known for or whatever, like the red, you know. So people are like, "Ooh, you always wearing the red lip. Is that red lip?" And so I was like, "Oh, I guess I'm not ever wearing any other color ever again." So I just don't like to spend a lot of time on it. It's just not my I understand like reasons why you'd be in a makeup chair for a long time. It's just not my thing. And so many people like associate that with being hyper feminine or that is what a woman is. And I just there's so many women who there's so many differences between what women do like or don't like what the sort of things that you wear. Like I know somebody who's pretty feminine, but she did not like to wear dresses. She hated dresses. She would never wear dresses. She always had pants on. And she'd have like suits and stuff like that she'd wear to work. But she loved being a woman. She was a mom, but she didn't like wearing dresses. And that's okay. But I've had conversations with trans women. I'm like, okay, explain to me, like, what is a woman? What do you think is a woman? Like, what are traits or attributes about things that you think that makes you? What is it? Why do you think that you are a woman? And then they'll start saying like stereotypical things, like, well, I like makeup, I like dresses, I'm like, well, there's women who don't like those things. There's lots of women who do, obviously, but you're not disqualified from being a woman because you don't like dresses. So it has to be something else beyond things that you think Barbie does. It has to be things beyond that. Um, Thank you, PH. Thank you. Very nice of you. Say. Oh, thank you about the lipstick. This is actually most of the time I wear a lip stain. Uh but I'm kind of running out on what I had, and so I had borrowed this lipstick that I'm wearing from my sister, and I did not give it back. So that's the story of the lipstick that I have on right now. It's not like the brighter reds that I have. It's kind of more muted, but yeah, it's nice. And then there's like one end is a lipstick and the other end is like a gloss. I don't think it made me put the gloss on yesterday, like the gloss sheen on top of it. But yeah. That's what I get for Christmas. Like, from folks. I get other things obviously, but like there's usually some like lipstick, or my nieces and my nephews, they don't spend much, they get like go to the dollar store or something to get gifts for their aunts, and so it's like, here's some lipstick, and I'm like, thank you very much. And so one of them got me like a makeup bag, like a little tiny makeup bag. I'm like, oh, is this I think she got like lipstick in the little bag. I'm like, oh, is this to put the lipstick in? And she's just like she's like, there was no thought behind it. It's like, oh, here's a bag and here's something else. It was just, her little expression was funny. Especially since we used to beef all the time, me and my niece, but we've mended our little relationship. Anyway. I think it's funny though. Back to Brianna here. My sister said, if I'm doing a glammed out face, it would take me a good 30 to 45 minutes. Basic day is a 5 minutes. Yeah. And a lot of these you know, folks you see online, including these trans influencers, they're caked up or filtered up or whatever anyway. But what's interesting is that Dylan Mulvaney is hosting a podcast and put out a book. I guess that's why Dylan was on The View the other day, which we played a snippet of Whoopi Goldberg saying stupid stuff, but I didn't really watch the portions with Dylan saying too much. But Dylan was on there promoting his book and his days of girlhood and other kind of stuff like that. And so there is a video that Dylan put out for his podcast, and I wasn't going to show you guys it. I was just kind of like, kind of over the subject a bit. But the Brianna Wu comment made me interested to talk about it, so I'm sorry. I'm sorry you must suffer. But here's a Dylan's little intro here.
In the shower, on a walk through the Dylan hour, feeling sweet, feeling sour. I feel nothing. The Dylan hour. My couch is open. It's better than therapy. All you soccer moms, all you theys and thems, all you bottom boys, my bisexual femmes. Come one and all, disassociate with me. It's free. Grab a drink or 2 or 3. You have no friends. All good, you got me. It's the Dylan hour. Love ya.
So, thank you, Kit Kat. She said, I will suffer watching this just because you did. Yeah. So I feel like seeing clips of Dylan pre Days of Girlhood, I don't see much of what he's done differently other than I don't even know if he really did the well, there's a video and claims that he went through feminization surgery and been taking hormones and whatever, and he dresses, in dresses and other things like that, and claims he's a woman. But as far as like a lot of his goofiness, you can find, he tried to be in like a Broadway course stuff, and he was on like The Price is Right and other things you might be able to find of him. So he's been trying to reach the bar of fame. But yeah, he's a cartoon. That's a good way to put it. He's a cartoon. So I don't think that there's that much of a difference in how Dylan was as just a gay man, as opposed to now with him still being a gay man, but just he's saying he's a woman. But Brianna here said, Dylan, this is tough love. Trans gal to trans gal. In the 1920s, a genre of deeply racist minstrel films emerged with wildly offensive Black stereotypes. You are producing the modern equivalent with women. I was willing to overlook your cringe and frankly sexist TikToks. You were a child. You're not a child anymore. You have talent. Please channel it another way. You're both in a minstrel show. Like, you're both in a minstrel show. You're both doing it. You're both doing it. Dylan is definitely doing it though. Dylan is definitely playing a part, playing a role, but it's just interesting because Brianna thinks that he relates to pretty girls because they all put on their makeup and they take all the time trying to reach, I don't know, that apex of femininity, so Dylan's playing a game, you're playing a game. He's trying to present a certain way and you're trying to present a certain way, and it's a presentation. You can't just be what you are because you're trying to hide who you are and what you are. So what makes a woman? What makes a woman? Apparently it's just everyone who decides that they are and they feel like a woman, then that is a woman. So Dylan has done some sexist videos and has apologized for a lot of them, but him doing like the goofy stuff, that is Dylan, but he's just Dylan as a woman, quote unquote, presenting how, just himself, but just now in pink, in Audrey Hepburn, and as if gay men don't like Audrey Hepburn, but to me, he's just like how he's been, and I don't know him personally, just things that I've seen. He is himself and he's a weirdo, but now he gets to just be that weirdo in a dress while his fans call him a girl. So the things he says and does are stereotypical, but he seemed to be weird and stuff as a it's not like he was like a hyper masculine gay dude before from stuff that I saw in the back. Like he was always goofy. And maybe that's all facade for because he's on different TV shows, Price is Right or whatever. And really desperate to get famous. Maybe all this was a desperate plea to get famous. Maybe he's just deep in the rabbit hole and it's been profitable, so why quit? You know, maybe he's just living a lie like a lot of celebrities live a lie and take on different personas. But so is Brianna. So is Brianna. You are not a woman. So I just, the audacity of telling someone else that they're being disrespectful and y'all will insist y'all get to just live and be as a woman, go in their spaces and so on. But you can criticize him, but you don't want to listen to actual women. I just find it very interesting. Find it very interesting indeed that he's just a bridge too far. Now maybe it's because Dylan makes a lot of you guys look goofy, and Dylan comes with a lot of controversy attached, like with the Bud Light situation and Nike and other things like that. Let's look at some of these quote tweets from Brianna's comments about the pretty girls. High femme women. It's all about the porn idea in their minds, a highly sexualized idea of what a woman is with zero understanding of the reality. Rather pathetic, really. If you don't think mixed sex sports, prisons, changing rooms, and rape shelters are safe because you're ugly, it's because you're ugly and don't know how to do eyeliner. XOXO. Fascinating. Thanks, Brianna. You know, in my experience, women are not natural allies with men who think being a woman is an idea in his head. Your attempt at division is blatant and wrong. What Brianna is talking about is dressing for the male gaze, which is what trans women do for their own sexual desires. Brianna continues to gaslight the point completely. Women, no matter what they look like, are a threat from men, no matter what they wear. I wouldn't say all men, but obviously not all men, but in my experience, most pretty women are not threatened by trans girls. We're actually fairly natural allies. Sir, show me an example of burning envy, narcissism, and misogyny all in one sentence. Yeah. And if you do, whether with Dylan or other trans women, if you do talk about them, there will be like rabid fans who will say like, "Oh, you're just mad because they're prettier than you." They'll people will say stuff like that. It's like it doesn't matter what you think, and you know if you're think they're pretty or you're attracted to them or whatever. That's your prerogative, but it doesn't change that I'm a woman or their other critics are women and they're not. And you don't have to fit their male gaze in order to qualify as being a woman or woman enough or pretty. Sheesh. I mean, incredible attempt at logic. Women who are ugly according to who, and for or butch just don't know enough about makeup to respect trans identified males. There are definitely beautiful women who do not want men in their bathrooms. This is a good one. Only autogynephilias with a fetish about being beautiful, sexy ladies believe women decide who else is a woman based on how attractive they are and not, because they have a cock and XY chromosomes. Uh, Anna said, as an older woman, I grew up during the milk movement and drag show era. Many are very disturbed by what is happening. The problem is that it's being pushed on society. It just demeans many. Um, yeah, there's I mean, I've played different videos for you guys of like drag performers saying like this stuff is weird. Like it's like the story time hours and things like that, and um some of the bathroom stuff, but it is very strange how people want to evolve it, and I've seen people try to downplay it by talking about other folks in drag and like dressing on in drag and like different movies and TV shows, which we've always like you know had an issue with that. Like someone said that, oh, no one had a problem with that movie that like Wesley Snipes and Patrick Swayze was in, and I'm like, what are you talking about? That like really damaged some careers there. Like that was very controversial at the time. And I've never seen that film, but I remember my dad being mad about it or whatever. But for folks have always had issues with it. But when you look at like Eddie Murphy and other folks like that, or even was it Reagan or somebody in a film that where there's like people dressed in drag or something with the military, but the when people dress in drag in like films or whatever, like we'll go back to Eddie Murphy or Jamie Foxx or just stuff that Jim Carrey, the joke is that men make ugly women. The joke is that men can't be women. And when men try to be women, it's absurd. That's why that drag stuff was supposed to be humorous, because it's a joke. It's a joke. Joanna Man, if you've ever seen Joanna Man, I don't know if a lot of people did. Actually, I think we went to the theaters to see Joanna Man. But there was a I can't think of the actor's name, but he there's a basketball player. He had a bad attitude and stuff. He got pushed out of the NBA, and so he started competing with the women NBA, and he obviously did well, because he was a dude, but he just really wanted to play. That the premise of the movie was so dumb. Like, he really wanted to play basketball, but they don't get paid a lot. I don't remember what other themes might have been in the film, but that just seems like such a waste of time. Like, it would have been better just going the reality TV circuit or something instead of him like going through the WNBA. So I saw it the one time, so I don't remember what all the details, but it's probably wasn't well received, I don't believe at all. It's definitely not a cult classic even now, but the premise, just talking about it, seems crazy because that would be such a significant drop in the pay anyway. So he got endorsements. That's how he got all his money from while he was in the NBA or when he was in the WNBA. Because that was still that was early 2000s, maybe, when that movie came out. In the WNBA, he got endorsements. No, he don't get endorsements like. Okay, maybe he would have if he was just playing really good like that. But it was 2002, so I know it's just a movie. It's just a comedy. But it just would have made more sense, like if he was like gonna be I'm like a washed out, bad attitude, like NBA star, like he could have had a reality TV. He could have been on MTV or VH1 or something like that. He you know. That's the route he could have definitely went. But anyway, those are jokes. It wasn't supposed to be real life. It was a joke. Those are jokes. And as far as like drag performers and stuff, though those are people pushing, that is basically a minstrel show, them too. I mean, they're literally just they're dressing up as women over like caricatures, hypersexualized attributes of the woman, like the big breasts and big hair and makeup and all sorts of different things. They are a caricature of women, and they go out there, and it is a mockery of womanhood. Maybe they don't think about it too deeply, but it is. So I don't understand why people would want to uplift that stuff anyway and put it in the libraries and whatever. And I know people will defend it like, oh, the drag shows are fun. I'm like, oh, I'm sure people liked going to minstrel shows too back in the day. That didn't mean they were right. You just like, things that aren't very tasteful. But I guess that's just, if that's your thing. If that's your thing. And they're of course naughty. So but if you're pretending to be a woman, you're still just pretending. But these dudes would just play on these stereotypes, trash people who don't agree with them, and then be like, no, we're totally women. We're totally women. Nope, that's just not how it works. And to say, just keep pretending like they're non-threatening when they don't care about whether or not they're going to make women feel safe or whatever. I mentioned in my video that I think most decent guys don't want to make women uncomfortable and unsafe, and probably fear that, because they probably fear what kind of repercussions could happen afterwards. So if someone was going to pursue and be like, nah, I'm coming in your bathroom anyway, I'm coming in your locker room anyway, you can't stop me, there's something wrong with you, and I'm gonna come in here, and for the folks who go in there and they take their selfies and they hike up their legs, on the sink, to, I don't know, as if they just slayed a lion or something in Africa. Like, I'm here in your territory. It's weird. It's weird. How many selfies do you take alone in the bathroom? Like, I know women do that, but it's not because they're in the bathroom. They just happens to be a mirror there or good lighting or something, or they're with their friends, but they're like doing trophy hunts, basically. Like, I conquered, I'm here, you can't stop me. And then there's been plenty of trans women who have wanted to silence women and want to make life so uncomfortable for TERFs, quote unquote, that they'll just be bullied into silence. And that's what they tried to do many times. There was a guy who was part of that Hershey's campaign or whatever. And a couple years ago, his tweets, got revealed or whatever. And he was one of these people who were trying to talk down to, TERFs. And I mean, you guys can just go look at JK Rowling's page. She reposts stuff that people send to her all the time. And so she's very vocal about speaking up about the trans stuff, because she knows other women can't. And she's stuck up for women who try to be who they've tried to silence and bully about this issue. So anyway, we'll move on. We'll move on. I want to talk about Gavin Newsom. You guys know that he started a podcast, and you would think that he has better things to do as the governor of California, but whatever. He has a podcast. He had Charlie Kirk on, and so he tried to find a lot of middle ground with Charlie Kirk or whatever on different issues. And it's clear that he's trying to present himself as a moderate. He's trying to get, build his profile, become more of a household name so people trust. And And I think maybe going on the podcast circuit, I think a lot more people will try to do that because they saw the success that Trump had with the podcast circuit. And it was good for Trump to do that. But people need to understand that you are not Trump. And just because things worked for him doesn't mean they're necessarily going to work for other people. And like people say it's a mistake that Kamala Harris didn't go on more podcasts or whatever. She can't speak very well, so I don't know if that really would have helped her too much. Like if she went on Rogan, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. But you can't just do what he did and expect that you're just going to replicate success. But it was important for him and like JD Vance to go on the different podcasts because people were trying to say this guy's crazy, this guy's losing it, and all kinds of different stuff. And then he goes and he sits down for hours at a time talking about stuff, and people are like, nah, he sounds pretty normal. And not only does he sound normal, he talks very down to earth. Like Andrew Schultz was talking about the other day, like how Trump will just say things in a way that's just like, yeah, that's how Frank down the street talks. He doesn't, and that's like how he relates to people, even though he lives a life of luxury that's so beyond what most people can even dream. And so just because you do a podcast or go on podcasts doesn't mean that you're going to end up in the White House. You know, you have to find the right strategy that's going to work for you. And, it was important that he was normalized in the minds of a lot of different people. So to me, I would think Gavin Newsom going on a lot of these podcasts or starting podcasts while he's obviously nakedly in a pursuit of trying to become the president just makes him seem more slimy because you can see the game like a mile away. And it is like, dude, you are a governor. Like I know you have things to do. You know, maybe the podcast doesn't take that long to shoot or whatever, but it just kind of seems like you should go do your job and you should try doing it well because you're not going to talk us out of the fact that you don't do your job well. So anyway, he had mentioned something about the Latinx and he got exposed on CNN for his lie. So let's watch that.
So let's talk about the word Latinx. Just 2 weeks ago, here's what he said about it.
By the way, not one person ever in my office has ever used the word Latinx.
So can we find that we agree?
But where did
more Latinx,
like,
everybody?
Well, I just didn't even know where it came from. I'm like, what are people talking about?
But there was a person who used Latinx. It was actually a really important person. It was him. Right?
Yeah, that's right. And look, these aren't minor shifts. These are progressive issues that Gavin Newsom used to champion until fairly recently. And now he's not just walking away from them. He's sort of acting like they were never legitimate with that clip talking about Latinx in the first place. But let's take Latinx. We did find somebody who used it repeatedly in his office. Let's take a listen to this.
I hope we can really paint a picture in terms of our consciousness of how impactful this has been on the Latinx community. The Latinx and Black communities. You've got politicians that are banning not assault rifles, but the word Latinx. They're not even serious.
Okay, the Latinx. Okay, so here's the thing. Like when it came, the Democrats were all like in on a lot of this nonsense, like the Latinx, the transgender issues, and the drag story hours, and the weird books in the schools, and critical race theory, and et cetera, and they believed that they could just push all that through and that they would bully people into shame and compliance. And that's just how they would win. Like you had very loud people who were doing stuff, pushing stuff, cultural change. Like this is what we're going to say. This is the inclusive term, Latinx. So we're going to say it. We're going to have elected officials say it. And this is going to be the thing. We're going to adopt this stuff. We're going to be the pro, trans kids in the sports and all that. We're going to push all that stuff forward and everyone's going to get in line. And there was, the momentum was like in their way. the Latinx thing like never really caught on. That like never really caught on. They were trying. They went down swinging or whatever. They were trying, but that never really caught on. But like it's some of this stuff, you know, like the transgender ideology stuff, for example, it seemed like a lot of stuff was like so prominent, and then you had a lot of power, institutional power that was protecting it, like on X, not before it was X, it was Twitter. You know, if you said something like the Babylon Bee, which I think that they just had their anniversary of their stuff being taken down by, you know, Twitter at the time, you know, they come for you there. TikTok, you said stuff, you get your stuff banned. There's things you couldn't say. There are certain jobs you couldn't say anything. If you said stuff online, people will come after you. Like it was, you had to let be happy that the trans person was in your locker room or whatever, or you were going to be demeaned and other stuff like that, like with the UPenn swim situation and other stuff. So there was we are the good guys trying to be inclusive, and you better be inclusive or else. And there was sort of that fear because there weren't enough normies willing to speak up. I had and people who weren't willing, people who were afraid that they would lose everything if they said so. I had people like privately message me and say like, I can't say the things that you say, like I will lose my job or I will this, that, and that. So I understand. But eventually it just got to be too much. It got to be too much. I think especially when they push too much on the kids, not just like people individually wanting to do stuff for their kids, but the fear of like seeing people take custody or lose custody of their kids, them to really trying to push it in the schools, like the fight they tried to fight with the parental rights and education. Think about in Florida when they had the parental rights and education bill, and all these institutions or whatever was like, oh, it's a don't say gay bill. How dare, and they're like running billboards in different states about it, and it's just nonstop talk. And thank God for Ron DeSantis, because he will fight for his stuff, the stuff that he signs, the stuff that he supports. And they kept fighting. People like me, you know, continuously kept talking about it. We read the bill together a few times on the show. It was very short to just prove what was actually in it. And once you make the case to like normal people about what it is and expose what the left was trying to do secretly, the normies are like, wait a second here. I agree with those weird, stuffy conservatives over there. So we just needed the normies just to kind of wake up and see what was going on and just join the people on the right who were fighting the culture wars and be like, oh yeah, we agree with them. So all that pressure from the minority on the left who were very vocal and trying to shame everybody into compliance, they couldn't do that anymore. They couldn't do that. So now they feel stupid because they are part of the bullying. They're part of the pressure campaign. And the normies are aware now and they're trying to win their vote. So now they have to pretend like they were never a part of that group. They have to pretend. But there's literally receipts. So some people are like, Gavin Newsom is very dangerous because he's willing to just lie. And he's a skilled liar. Like he'll just say stuff that's blatantly not true and not care, and it'll just flow out. And but there's still receipts. So to me, he just comes off as a slime ball, you know. But there's other people out there who want to be bamboozled, for sure. But there's folks on the left who who are mad at him for trying to make the turn. There's folks on the left who are mad at him, like people on The View, like they were mad at him for saying that it's unfair, agreeing that it was unfair for boys to be in girls sports. That didn't mean that he was gonna like ban that or something like that. He just acknowledged it was unfair, and people on the left were very upset about that. But Gavin Newsom was right there with the crazy people on that. So what he needs to do, or what if Democrats want to move away from this crazy stuff, they need to acknowledge that they are shifting, and they need to talk about why they are shifting. Definitely don't pretend like you were never part of the problem, and you better have some kind of solid argument as to why you woke up and realized what you said was stupid, what you pushed was harmful. And then people can be like, okay, it seems like you had an aha moment. But the other issue is that there's people out here saying stuff and they knew it was crazy at the time, but that's what everybody else was saying, and they just had to push it. And so now they got to pretend like they weren't part of that pack. And they can say things that make sense because they always knew their position was crazy. So now that they're trying to relate to the normies, they can sound normal. But it's not even because they found religion or something like that. It's because they always knew it was insane. They just did it for political reasons. Like Chris Cuomo, for example, hangs out with PDB, Patrick Bet David, and will try to like slide stuff about like COVID and pretending like he didn't have like a bunch of different radical positions on different things. He's been called out for some of that stuff, like on COVID and other things like that. But you can't just forget and pretend like stuff didn't just happen. Like we don't have memories, and forget the memories. Well, don't forget the memories, but if we just put that aside, there's still receipts. There's still receipts, but they might not care about the receipts, I guess. Because even with COVID, there was receipts about Fauci back in the day saying, mask and, oh no, lockdowns. You don't do that kind of stuff during like a pandemic. You don't do those kinds of things. So it's scary to think about people could get away with just lying straight to your face all the time. But I think he's going to face a similar problem that Kamala Harris faced, that there's too much video. There's too much of it. There's too much of it. I think it's not going to be. I don't think it's going to be him. I think he really wants it to be him. I think it's going to be someone else who rises to the top. But name ID is a big deal though. But we'll see. Anyway, that's all I got for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on the website, articles, videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation on the website because it does cost a stream, run my site, all the good stuff so you guys can support. I very much do appreciate it and appreciate you guys. You guys can check out different merch that also does support the show. You guys can check out different teas and mugs and so on. And I do encourage you guys to check out some of my books that I've written. So go ahead and check some of that stuff. I got historical fiction, fantasy, and children's chapter books, and I got also nonfiction books as well. Like, of course, God is Blatantly Against Abortion. So I encourage you guys to check that out. Something cool that was happening today. I saw some folks who were doing like a pro-life protest. It wasn't really they were outside with their signs and stuff, saying abortion is violence, and they had some, pictures of that were very, graphic, but it is what it is. One of them was the babies from the 5, Justice for the 5, when there was some activists and they had like a medical waste bucket that they got, and there was like whole babies basically in it, and one of them, their head was crushed, and they were concerned about they were concerned that the babies were in there, but they were concerned about how they were killed as well, if anything illegal had went on. But they had pictures like that, so there are some folks waving in, and honking in solidarity. There was definitely a lot of people honking and flipping the bird, and so I went over and I talked to them a bit, and just told them I appreciated what they were doing and stuff. So, so very cool, very cool to the folks out there, doing the work. They were not, they're like in an intersection, like it would, you'd have to like make some effort probably to really want to go over and talk to them and have a conversation. So I don't know how many people walked over to them and actually talked. I think people who are negative just mostly flip them the bird. But I appreciate what they're doing. So it's just cool to see today. Anyway, you guys be good. You have a great weekend. You guys stay safe. And I will see you on Monday.